the Bullworker Steel Bow 20-inch. This is kind of my appraisal of it. Firstly, let me apologise for the mess. I haven't really got enough room, but I wanted to use a camera from above to show you closely, because I've done a unboxing outside from a bit further away, but there's going to be a little bit more detail in certain things. You'll have seen this, the bag it comes in, and you'll probably know that there are the hand grips, which I don't use. The various strengths of springs, which I've forgotten. I know the red's a hard one. Actually, you can tell by the gauge of the spring. So that's the weak one. I've got the second to weakest in there, and that'll do me. Thank you very much. There's a rubber slip mat as well. How I came by it? Well, Bullworker very kindly sent it to me. I have two of the older Bullworkers, the X5, which you'll see outside when I take this outside to show you how I use this particular one. And I did some videos on that, and they sent me this to see what I thought. What the manufacturer says, you can get this on the website, of course. It's shorter than the classic bow, which you'll see. Resistance from 0 to 130 pounds, various springs. They apologise for the delay. They reckon the 11th of September in England. Obviously they're out of stock because of a pandemic. It says it's similar principles to the Bow Classic, but you can target specific muscle groups much as you would with a dumbbell. Well, let's look at it first. Fit, feel, finish, accessories and booklet. Well, it feels to me like a quality piece of kit. Feels well made. Handles are comfortable. So I've got the second to weakest spring in there, which will do for what I use it for. This discoloration you can see here on the cables is from where these were fitted. Don't know what it is, doesn't make any difference. The printing and so on, nicely done. Not sure if it's screen printing or silk printing, whatever. I notice that the handle has these plugs here. On one of them I took out to have a look, and there are screws under them. Well, there's a screw under one of them, I assume all of them, both ends. So I'm thinking, if the cable goes, which on my very first Bullworker from late 60s, early 70s, I think, with the green handles, the cable did eventually go, and I tried to do something about it, but you can imagine, not really. Maybe that one could have been dismantled. I didn't think. I just got the next one. But it looks as if maybe if anything goes with the cable, you can that handles can be taken apart and can be replaced. I'm not sure about that. I'm just imagining that's the case. The springs, as you know, I'll show you the spring change, which I think I did before. Let me just adjust the microphone because I can see it's not pointing at my mouth. Slip mat. For if you're doing things on a slippery surface, perhaps you don't want that suddenly sliding off. That grips very well. And the booklet, which I'll come to. Pretty thorough, well, very thorough. And I like that they use, I was going to say not normal people, but people that look fit, but not ridiculously so. I mean, that maybe that one's, you probably could get to that just using this, but most of the people they use in here like your kind of average person-ish. Loads of stuff, almost, I thought, compared to the older. I thought almost too much, but how can there be too much? Well, I think what you'd have to do is take your time, go through it and decide what each exercise is about. Understand the principles and then make up your own workout, perhaps. Because I wouldn't want to go through the whole book. The ones I go through, the daily ones there, and it takes me about an hour, well, a bit longer, because I keep sort of chatting and daydreaming and stuff. So plenty for you to sort yourself out with, I'd say, in there. Now, I'll go outside and show you, understand then that I use this for specific things because I've got two of the older Bullworkers anyway, which is the same size or similar size to the classic bow. The classic bow, which is a Bullworker's longer one. So as I have those two, the springs aren't interchangeable. One of them's a normal spring and the other one's a big man bully, so it's got a stronger spring. So I just pick a different one up for different things. I've been using this then for some of the things which I don't find very comfortable with the others. For instance, I have had a little bit of an ache here. I did have an ache in the shoulder, but that's gone because I was punching my shoulder up, and also with the computer mouse, everything was, the shoulder was up on this side. So that's pretty much gone. I then started to get, when I got the big man bully, the strong one, I started to get a pain here. So if you get any pains, I'd say stop and look. Be very aware which exercises seem to be causing it, and then either eradicate them or change them or find an alternative. So for me, I'm pretty sure that I didn't like this side hold here, which, notice on the older Bullworker, it's called full range, that it has the grip at the end, like the current Bullworker, but it's got these as well for the inner range. But as I do that, I can feel this here doesn't seem to like it very much. It's much happier being this way round. It might work slightly different muscles, and maybe I won't get some of the advantage of the other hold, but what's the point if things are aching? So I've started using this then for the inner range. Equivalent of the inner range on the other way, I can keep my hand in a much more natural position, not turned like that, which, as I say, as I do that twisting, my forearm doesn't like it. I use it for that. You can see from this diagram of the older one, and which is a similar size to the current classic, that there's no way you can do something like that because this is far too short, far too small. But you could get straps. I think Bullworker sells straps, or you could make your own, but be very careful that they don't fly off. Be careful with that kind of thing. I use it for these. The reason being, with the older one, and particularly with the big man one, the strong one, which I used, to grab these straps and pull down, I find myself putting my fingernails in there and then squeezing to get the grip, otherwise it slips, particularly with the strong spring one. So I found myself gripping really hard with these, and I also found that digging my nails in there hard, I could feel my forearm didn't like that either. So instead of gripping there, because when you grip there, it makes this big one shorter, obviously, because you're not holding the top. So I simply, again, it's not quite the same because they show pulling out there, but I simply do that exercise with my hand straight on the top, rather than as it would be twisted like that with the grip and then having to really put my fingers in to stop sliding on the other one. So there's that one again. That one where you're doing that gripping with the rope, I use this smaller one. I use a steel bow and hold onto the top because it's shorter. That one you can do with a steel bow, but you have to get an extension somehow because obviously it's not. Again, that one with the hands twisted, I use the steel bow and have my hands straight. So you get the idea. What do I notice immediately? Well, apart from the the quality of the construction. I do notice the obviously there's not as much range on this, so that's why you need the several springs. So I don't change them, because you may find with some that you get to the end fairly quickly, particularly with things like this. Actually, having said that, I didn't, but there are ones where I get to the end fairly quickly, and there are some others where it's really not quite enough, so I should change the spring, but because I've got the other Bullworkers, I just leave the spring in. Changing the spring you need to get used to. They've got videos online. You can see that hook there, and you need to take the pressure off, as you can see, and then that will come out. With the stronger springs, you need to be a bit careful, and they do say that on their site as well. And they just swap the spring out, put it back. Again, with the stronger spring, you've really got to squeeze quite firmly to get this past the top and in. Okay, I'll just go outside and just show you how I use it, and bear in mind that I use it kind of, I'm blessed, I'm lucky to have the other two and then this, so I can use this as an accessory, if you like, in the way I've just described. So I'll show you that. I'll show you a bit of what I use it for. This one, very difficult to see actually there, with the inner range where I don't like that angle. So instead of doing this, where I can feel that there for me, I'll use this one instead. I'll keep the hand flat, and I can use that. Instead. This one, where you hold the straps and lift your leg up, again, because you're holding the straps further down, it's shorter, so I use the steel bow for that. And lift my leg up and hold, and then do the repetitions from there. Likewise with this one, instead of holding the ropes on the older Bullworker, I use the steel bow and hold the top. Saves me having to grip the rope so hard. Likewise with this one, instead of using the inner range on the X5, which again I can feel a slight, that may, when it goes away I may go back to this, but I probably won't because I've got this one now. So yeah, just simply, this is the second to weakest spring, and even in places like this I find that I can move it but not much. Also, I use the steel bow for these, where grabbing the handles again. So again, I just have my hands on top of the steel bow. These, where you can see they're on the inner range, and it even looks a little awkward. We've all got different bodies, all got different things going on. So I use the steel bow for these. You can see behind the head, above and behind, rather than having my hands like that. So at the moment I don't like the twisting, so I'd use that there. This one was never very comfortable for me. I don't know why. Just wherever I seem to put my wrists between my knees to squeeze the legs in, I couldn't find it very comfortable with my bony knees somehow. But steel bow works very well for that. I can put my hands on the end. If you can see, just about on the end, then between my knees, just almost out of view, and I can squeeze with my knees and I find a comfortable place. I can squeeze that pretty much fully and hold and do the repetitions. Again with this one, I put my hands on the top so I can keep my orientated that way, my hand, my forearm. That's pretty much it for me, so I use it for those exercises, a combination of the X5 and the red X5, and that does it for me. Value for money. They're both the steel bow, and I think the classic are much the same price, roundabout in UK, round about 200. It's a fair bit. They're well made from what I can see. That's nice. Feels better made than the old one. For me, the steel bow, as I said, is an accessory almost. You'd have to look and see which one would suit you. The smaller one's obviously easier to travel with, but the larger one's not that much larger, it's only a bit longer. If you're really confined for space, then maybe the small one. My feeling is that maybe the larger one I would use for general stuff, but that's what I'm doing, of course, so I would say that, and that one I'd use for targeting and for convenience. But that's a lot to spend. However, I don't know. I'm not sure what's happening with my gym membership. I've frozen it. I've got an old boys rate, so I'm on £50 a month. So one of those is 4 months. I've been going to the gym for 15, same one, something like that, I don't know. There's a social aspect of the gym, and the biggie for me is the swimming pool. But maybe I can just go to a pool, is what I'm thinking. This I like to do out here in the garden. If it's raining, I'm lucky that there's a kind of a porchway at the front, so I can go out there and do it under that. I could see myself doing that in the winter, just where you have tracks and what have you. And that's quite social. People walk past and chat. People come in the block and chat. I think, have a good look online. Understand the principles, what they're about. I think it does what it says, so I think you can trust that. I find it better than what I was doing at the gym, particularly around the core. I feel stronger. I feel I move, just feels nicer. The body just feels nicer. I haven't really got any criticisms for what it is, and I think it does what it says. So